it's a nice little place to be.
A lot of people are proud of the town and where it's at. Every town has its bad spots, but you know, that's everywhere USA.
Midland is a town of about 3,000 people along the Ohio River, and it's long been known as a steel town. Part of the reason we decided to go there was that it was ranking pretty high among the schools that we modeled.
The approach used by USA Today was to take the modeling data and rank schools across the country in terms of what their health risk might be.
Part of the reason we decided to go out and do snapshot monitoring of air at some of these schools was because the government wasn't.
There has to be a thorough investigation beyond just the modeling approach.
We worked with Johns Hopkins University and the School of Public Health at the University of Maryland to come up with a way of gathering data from schools around the country. One of the things we did was to do, as we call, snapshot monitoring, where we might spend 5 days outside a school with various apparatus collecting samples of the air, then sending those samples to the lab to be analyzed.
But once we got the samples were collected on pieces of filter paper. So first we had to digest the filter paper. Then we had to dissolve the metals in concentrated acid. Once we had the metals that were dissolved in this concentrated acid solution, we could inject them into the ICP-MS. That's a fancy piece of analytical equipment that tells us how much metals are present.
I've lived in Midland for the last 4 or 5 years, but I grew up in industry the next town down. I don't really have any concerns about the pollution.
In Midland and a host of other towns, it's not surprising that residents might not see problems or might think that this isn't related to industries in the areas. Part of what's so insidious about air pollution is that the problems that show up might not come for decades later.
One of the things I worry about as a pediatrician is that children are much more vulnerable, much more susceptible to toxic chemicals than adults.
They may be breathing things early on in their lives that don't manifest until 20, 30 years later.
The cancer rate's high. I've lost a couple handfuls of people with cancer. You
always have a concern about, you know, what may be coming from that.
The Midland, Pennsylvania school, the air monitoring suggests there might be some concern there.
The child may seem to be okay. The child may be able to go to school, may be able to study, may be able to play sports, looks okay, but is actually going to be operating with less than his given potential.
There is pollutants, let's just say that much.
I don't believe there's anything in there. If they're hiding it, they're doing a real good job of hiding it.
The air monitoring indicated that we had high levels of airborne chromium there. Certain species of chromium are highly carcinogenic. The airborne chromium was consistent with the types of industries that we think are close. It's an industrial corridor with a steel mill, a power plant, a foundry close by. And the chromium measurements suggested that there's more follow-up that needs to be done to think about what that risk might be.
How do you know that a child is being exposed? And the answer to that question is, in many cases, you don't know. Because if the exposures are at relatively low levels, they may be causing damage in the child. They may be causing mutations in a child's cells that begin the pathway to cancer.
If I found out it was, you know, if there was something dangerous going on there, I would definitely have to relocate my family.
If it is something going on, I would really want them to look into it.
So no parent should take these results and think that their children are at risk and they need to kind of stop sending their kids to school.
If a family realizes through reading your story or other reports that they live in a polluted area, they should bring this matter to the attention of their pediatrician, their family doctor, so that the doctor is also aware of it. And then the doctor may want to do appropriate tests.
Experts who have looked at what we did say that parents shouldn't be alarmed, but they should be concerned. They should start asking questions, both of their school district and of the companies that are located nearby. They should try to find out what's in the air. And the experts say that they can contact advocacy groups, they can contact state environmental agencies, they can contact their school officials, that these are questions that they ought to ask and answers they should get.